Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Bromo Sapiens podcast with your illustrious hosts, Andrew and
Maser.
That's right. We are here to entertain you and hopefully give you some thought provoking and mildly humorous conversation.
Mildly humorous.
People
In a
if
world
you've
of
got-
chaos and destruction, we bring
Yes,
you
and-
Bromo Sapiens. No. I'm trying to do my
Then we-
trailer voice, but I can't. I don't have a deep enough voice for that.
We also need like thunder in the background or those bass noises that they have in the movie theaters where it's like
Yeah.
like
We do.
I'm thinking of the Godzilla of the trailers for Godzilla, like the new ones. Did you ever like see those trailers in the movies when they had like Godzilla on
Dude,
the
I
screen?
can't even tell you when was the last time I went to the movies and what I saw on the screen. That's how long
Yeah.
it's been. But I know what you're talking about.
Because it's like, I mean, when you're in there, it's like this weird bass frequency, and I think as far as like sound design goes, I think it's very interesting to listen to
Oh, I love it.
because it's just like it's pure, just like bass frequency, and it resonates in you, and it really, yeah. I mean, a lot of people didn't like that Godzilla movie. There were some of the newer Godzilla movies, but I do have to say, as far as like the sound design and like how they made some of those sounds, I thought that was actually a star quality of those movies and found it very interesting. But I suppose you'd have to be obsessed with sound like I am to, appreciate that. Perhaps.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. I think sound design is probably one of the most key elements of storytelling in terms of movie making, because I wanted to kind of talk about two things here about sound and sound design, but I saw this. So the one thing I want to talk about is I saw this video of how people, how sound designers make certain types of sounds. Like if there was a fight. So I'll give you a very specific example. When Fight Club released, it was pretty like hard to watch because the fighting scenes were so visceral and so realistic.
Oh yeah.
And there's a video on YouTube that shows how they made those noises. And what they did was they got like chicken meat. They actually got meat. Celery,
Oh wow.
And they recorded, the sound designers recorded themselves punching chicken meat to simulate or to emulate the hitting of flesh sound. And then
That is cool.
Yeah, and then they broke celery to emulate the sound of bone crunching.
Yeah. Oh, that's so that would have to, I feel like that would have to be such a fun job.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I mean, still, it probably gets kind of like kind of mind, or I'm sure it gets kind of maddening when the deadlines start coming down on you. But that's so I love that.
Isn't that so interesting? Like sometimes
Yeah.
they would cut open the meat, right? They would get like a chicken breast.
Like that video I sent you on Instagram of that
yeah,
chicken.
that's exactly right. That is exactly right.
There's this video on we'll get back to what Mazur was saying, but really quick, there's this video on Instagram of somebody who was filleting chicken, and they chose this thumbnail on purpose, but it was like split apart and it looked like a vagina, and it was just.
It was pretty. When I got the video, I was like, Andrew, what have you sent me? Oh my god! But then I watched it. I was like, oh, it's just and that's where I was like, wow, I actually clicked on it, even though I saw the thumbnail and I was like, whoa, what has he sent me? And I actually clicked on it to watch it, knowing
He was
damn
like,
well
I was
that I probably
hungry.
shouldn't.
He was like, I was hungry before, but now I'm really hungry.
Yeah, yeah. No, I saw that. And I'm like, oh, flesh.
Let's get me some chicken. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
exactly what I said. But yeah,
So I
no,
didn't
they
mean
would cut open a chicken breast and they would put like, I don't know, a piece of celery inside, and then they
Oh,
would
wow.
punch that. So it would be like their fist hitting meat, and then the celery would crunch inside, and you can get all the different sound effects of bone crunching, and it was pretty interesting. So like that's just one example of sound design.
That is damn near like that's impressive. That and so inventive too.
Right.
Like so have you seen the instrument that they use for, I think it was the Insidious movies?
No, what do they use?
Oh, it's this crazy looking thing. It's called like Let's see if I can find out what it's called. Um, but it's like this giant. It's like this giant like metal Dorito that has like all these because it's like in a try. It looks like a metal Dorito, but it's like a metal Dorito that has like all these like metal things sticking out of it and these different instruments that you can hit. There's like springs and stuff. And basically,
Oh,
what they do is it's because it's like metal and it like resonates and everything like that, and it vibrates and such like certain frequencies that when you like if you were just to like graze one of like the things that you'd hit it with against it, it'd make all sorts of weird and creepy noises. Um,
interesting.
yeah, oh, it's so interesting. Like, and I looked it up because I want to get one day because I think it would be so awesome to be able to incorporate that into like music. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like they've got. I mean, they've got small ones, they've got medium ones, and they have like really big ones that they use for like the really big budget movies. But like the big ones go for like somewhere between like $2,000 or something like that, and the small ones go for like I think 400. I looked it up because I really want to get it.
Oh, that's interesting. So is it like basically a triangle?
Yeah, it's like a metal tri. Well, it's like a solid metal triangle. That's like the base, and
Okay.
then there's like things that are like sticking. There's like metal
Oh, okay.
things that are like sticking out of it here and there. There's like metal springs and like bars and stuff like that.
Very
And
cool.
there's like, but there are also like certain sorts of instruments or whatever that or very particular sorts of things that you can use to strike it with to
Oh,
make
okay.
produce certain noises. Yeah, and I think it was called I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a I'm pretty sure it was in Insidious. It was either in Insidious or oh wait, here it is. Wait, let me see. Yeah, it's like I don't. I'll show it to you through my monitor.
Oh,
I
I
don't know
see
if
it.
you can see it. Yeah, it's a very interesting looking piece.
Yes. Yes,
But
it is.
I
Just like
totally
you
want to
are.
get. Oh, thank you, baby. Mwah.
Mm.
But I definitely would love to get one of those. And just see what sorts of crazy stuff I can do with it.
Yeah. You turn your rock into industrial rock.
Right.
Go the
Or
Nine
just
Inch Nails route.
I don't know about that. I wasn't that big a fan of Nine Inch Nails, to be
What?
honest with you.
What?
But what? No,
What?
they're. I mean,
Bradley.
I mean, but broadly, no, they've got. I mean, they of course have their place in music and everything like that because they were, like pioneers or for the genre that they were in. I mean, I don't really know much about them, quite frankly, but I just never could really
Well, it's just
get
one.
in.
It's just one guy. Really. I don't know if he.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if it is just. I wonder if it's just Trent Reznor, and if he has a band. I think he has a band. Like he's got band members. I don't know. I don't know
Well,
much about Nine
I
Inch
thought
Nails either. Actually.
I thought it was a band because I think otherwise, if it was just Trent Reznor, wouldn't that just be uh wouldn't that just be like the Trent Reznor band, or he would just be him as like a solo
I don't know. I
project or
mean, like
something like
there's like, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, there's an artist called Owl City, but I think it's just one guy, but he doesn't go
that?
by the name.
Oh,
You know, it's like I know that there's solo artists that
yeah.
make all the music, but like Dave Grohl, he made his first album, but he called it Foo Fighters instead of calling it the Dave Grohl Band.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that was a thing with one of my favorite bands, Imperial State Electric. It started off with an album that was basically recorded all by Nick Anderson from the Helicopters, and like I think there was only one song on it that had uh, the eventual iteration of what the band would have been, but for the most part, everything was just him. But he didn't. But he didn't want it to be like the Nick Anderson project. He wanted it to be a band type thing,
Yeah,
which
like an
I can
actual
get.
name for a band. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know. I can't really say I know that much about Nine Inch Nails, but I have listened to one or two of their albums, and I gotta say I like it. I think it's very inventive. I think it's very interesting music,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I can see Trent Reznor and the band using that instrument to create
Oh
interesting
yeah.
industrial, sort of haunting sounds.
Oh, definitely. Well, like what I like to think about is I like to think about well, as far as like how I would use it, I would probably do some like Led Zeppelin type thing where like you know how like that middle section out in like Whole Lot of Love where
Oh,
they've got
man.
they've got all that crap going on. I'd like
Yeah.
to do something like that like before like after a guitar solo just to kind of add some sort of
By
like
the way,
interesting ambience.
that guitar solo is, I think, one of the greatest guitar solos ever.
Oh yeah.
God, the fucking, oh, excuse me, but whatever, bleep it out. The fucking, the drum segment with it, like,
Oh yeah.
bump, bump, yeah, and
Yeah.
it goes bump, 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 bump. Oh, it's so great.
That is like I remember the first time I heard Whole Lot of Love, I was like that was one of those moments where you stop and you're just like, oh, I like this. Like and just the sound that Jimmy Page had on that song was just like, oh, it's beautiful. Like I think that was the album that he started using Gibson Les Pauls on because they were just they were a bigger sound than the Telecaster. Although I think I like the sound he had on his Telecaster better than he did for on the Les Paul. And as far as more Led Zeppelin myths out there, I believe that Jimmy Page used the Telecaster on the Stairway to Heaven solo on the record. He didn't actually use the double neck on the record. I believe he used the Telecaster on the record, but I might be wrong.
Well, that's really interesting. I don't know much about guitars, and I don't know the sound. Like, I'm not that well versed in my knowledge about guitars and the sound they produce, but cool stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Because like, most people when they see Jimmy Page, they see or they think of the double necked red guitar, the SG that he has.
Double redneck guitar. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, them boys electric. Is that an electric
They was
guitar?
electric. They went twingity twang twang.
It's a double redneck guitar.
Double redneck guitar.
How do you
We like
power
to
this
call
with
them
beer?
Beer and the power of America.
Power America. God bless America.
God bless America. Shit. Spits in the spit tune, and it goes "Putun," or whatever.
Oh God.
Remember that meme? Get you a man who can do both. Remember that?
Oh my
Remember that
God.
shit?
Yeah. Right. And,
And
so
the
it was like
internet-
they were just terrible.
Yeah, and like the internet was just filled with them. At first, it was the people who were very serious about this meme, like, "Oh yeah, get you a man who can do both or whatever." And then the meme community got a hold of it, and then they just started making ridiculous shit.
Get you a man, or sometimes it was like get you a girl that can do both, and it'd be like a girl changing from sweatpants to like tighter fitting clothes.
Oh
Or
yeah,
a contour
yeah.
dress or whatever, and you're just like, I'm always looking at it. I'm like, what? Get you a
a
girl that
who
can change clothes? Like what?
Right, exactly. It was so dumb. Or it makes me think of the I think it eventually became, this may not be official, but it sounds like the eventual evolution of that meme where it's like it was a TikTok meme, and it's like and some girl, it was like a quote unquote girl meme, like, admit it, girls, we all know, we've all met somebody hot named, and then it would change to like somebody's name like Gerald or like Blake or something like that, and it would
Sheldon.
be like and it would be like, but it would be like a monkey walking around in overalls, and it was just so funny.
Gerald.
Or
That's
it
a
was
fun,
like,
that's a really hot name, dude.
yeah,
Gerald. Can you imagine? Like that's like a daddy name.
you could call him Jer. Oh, come on, Jer. Let me.
Come on, Jerry. Jerry. What else? What's another good daddy name?
Moser. Oh,
Oh.
I didn't say
Oh,
that out
I-
loud. I was just thinking. I didn't.
I was gonna say
yeah.
Andrew, but I mean,
Oh shit. Well,
what other? Jeff's a good one. I don't know. I can't think of any daddy names past Jeff. Hank, maybe. I don't know. Henry, Hank.
Hank. No, Hank. That's there. 'Cause
Hank's a pretty
Han-
studly name, I would say.
Yeah, it's very like, I imagine a guy who's working in a junkyard who's got like a nice kind of tan to him. He works out, but it's because he has to deal with heavy stuff all day. But yeah, no, Hank is that's a very daddy name. I don't know.
I don't know. Now we're off topic.
I
Well,
know,
we haven't
right?
even
We're-
gotten on topic yet.
We haven't.
Not really. Well, I think this is a good. I think this is a good segue into boomers.
Boomers?
Hank is a very boomer name.
Is it?
I think so. I think I
Oh,
think,
great! Now all the Hanks who are watching the podcast just
yeah, but
they
I just
hate us
said that
now.
Hank is a daddy name, so they can just shut up and take the compliment. And
Yeah,
not
it's
worry
like
about
a-
all the shit we're about to talk on these boomers.
Ooh,
Kidding.
ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah, I'm
ooh.
getting a little feisty. Sorry, Hanks.
Rare. He's
Rawr.
like a caged cat. Mm.
Speaking of Hank, I got into this show called Californication, and
I love that song and that album.
oh yes, it's a great Red Hot Chili Peppers. If you're listening to this, here we go again with the celebrity name, Colin.
We have to.
We
That's
have
that's our shtick. We have to get as many. It's not a Bromo Sapiens podcast if we don't at least drop some celebrity name at least like once.
Yeah, it's
You know?
not. It's This is our trademark. This is what we do. Shtick. You're right. But yeah, watched the show, and the main character's name is Hank Moody, and I would totally want to. I would want to meet that guy. I would want to meet that boomer.
For what purpose?
Oh, he's just so like. He has no filter. That character has no filter. Well, I shouldn't say he has no filter. He's definitely committed to telling the truth. That's the way I should put it.
Ah, so he's like me. I got you.
Yes. In fact, you totally if that character was a real character, you totally have a good time
Oh,
talking to
I
him
mean,
over lunch or coffee or something.
we probably would.
If we could get Hank Moody on this podcast, totally want that.
To him, well, we have to get the actor on here, but
Oh, the actor is David Duchovny.
Well, if we could get him, but he has to act like he's Hank the entire time.
That'd be great. How
That'd be
great
really
would
cool.
that be? Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
David Duchovny,
Oh my
if you're
God.
listening to this, please support our channel. Come to our podcast.
Come to our
Come
podcast,
to our podcast.
please,
And shower us with your moodiness.
and pure honesty.
Get hanky panky with us.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's scandalous.
I know. I can't help
So
it.
is this. So is this podcast.
Yeah, this whole thing is scandy.
Yeah.
I think we should
Well,
make it a thing. What would Hank Moody do? Or what would Hank
would
Moody
Hank
say?
Moody
Yeah. You need to
We
watch
won't run
that
out.
show.
We won't run out of ideas fast at all. Yeah, you keep telling me, and there's a lot of shows that I need to watch that I just.
Do you have
haven't,
Hulu?
But, yeah, I do have Hulu.
Oh, it's on Hulu.
Okay.
Hulu.
All right, I'll. Here's the thing. I've got such a long list of things that I need to watch.
Well, here's the
That-
deal. They're like
What's up?
30-minute episodes. Just watch the first
I'm a
one.
30-minute episode. What are you talking about, bitch?
Did you say you're a 30-minute episode? Because
Yeah.
last time I checked, you went for 2 hours.
Yeah, you're right. What am I saying?
Yeah, what the f are you saying, man? don't sell yourself short like that.
All right. You're
Not
you're-
in my house. Hell
See,
no.
get you a man that encourages you like this. All right.
Yeah,
This
talk
this
your
is where-
man up. All right, ladies.
This is
Talk
where
your
it's
man
at,
up.
ladies. This is where it's at, ladies.
Men need
and,
love,
or,
too.
or gentlemen.
You know the Old Spice commercial? Men have skin too.
Oh yeah.
Men need love
I like-
too. Talk your man
I
up,
like-
ladies. Come on.
I like the ones with Terry Crews in it, and he
He does his boob dance.
the peck thing, and then
Yeah.
he screams.
Ah! Yeah, I love this. I think Terry Crews is no longer part of the Old Spice. Well, like Kevin
No.
Hart was now. Kevin Hart's been in a few Old Spice commercials. Now there's another guy. But,
Yeah.
it's funny because it totally works. That's all I use, Old Spice.
I used to use all that. Well, no, I used to use that. I used to use the one where it was the ones where it was, like the shampoo and the body wash or whatever. But then that started doing bad things to my hair, and I'm like, well, I have to upkeep this.
Yeah,
So-
no, I would never get like all in one because it's
Yeah.
too hard on your hair.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's for people. It's basically for people who don't give a shit. Way I look at it, because it's just like, oh well, this will wash me. This is fine,
Well, yeah, if that's the attitude you want to go with, use fucking Dawn dishwash.
I was just thinking that. Did you see that meme?
Yeah,
You saw that meme where it's like,
exactly.
my boyfriend said my boyfriend has Dawn dish soap in his shower, and he's like, well, if it's good enough to clean the ducks, it's good enough to clean
Clean
me.
me, right? Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Use the Dawn dish soap. Get the
Well,
oil and
I-
grease out of you.
Right. Well, I needed to. I needed to. As I'm getting older, I needed to really needed to pay attention to, what I was actually putting on my hair, because I need to make sure that it's like, that I'm ensuring the proper care so that my scalp and my hair will just be healthy to limit hair loss and everything like that.
Yeah, that's one struggle that a lot of us face as we age. You know, they say 80% of men lose their hair in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is blown when I see older gentlemen who have like a full head of hair. I'm just like, what did you do? How did you? Is that just genes? Did you, like,
Well, you know, it could
that?
be genetics, and it could also be like them taking supplements like biotin, or you know, using
I take biotin, man,
Oh,
and
you do?
well, I go through phases where I take some for a bit of time, then I stop, and then
Does it have any side effects? I mean, not side effects, but like, you can just get them over the counter, right?
Oh yeah, you can get them over the counter, and basically, I'll put it like this: it makes hair grow everywhere. So just be aware of
Yeah.
it. Be aware of that, okay?
Yeah.
But that's not really why I stopped taking it. It's just more or less I just kind of get out of the kick of doing it, and
Oh, don't stop
you know.
taking it.
You like the jungle? You
Yeah,
like the
I like
jungle,
that.
maybe? Is that how it goes?
I like a little bit of hair here and there, you know.
Manly men just doing manly men things. Bros helping bros and being bros, being all broy and stuff.
Bro culture ain't all that bad.
No, it's not.
No, no, it's not. It's not at all. I think it's actually it's healthy, in fact, to have. And I'm not saying this to be funny. I actually mean this. I think it's very healthy, and it's not just to say that, you know, bros. It's just about bros. I think it's just healthy to have a set of friends that are, you know,
Supportive.
your support group, if you will. Like you can't
Yeah.
talk about, like for me, I can't talk about everything to, you know, one type of person. Like I can't tell my mom everything. I can't tell my dad everything. They're my
Oh,
parents.
same, yeah.
Yeah, I have to restrict some. I have to keep some information away just because they don't probably want to hear it, and I couldn't feel comfortable saying it. But you know, when you have a
Yeah.
bunch of guys around your age, or you know, that people you can relate to, even, and you know, it also goes for girls, women having women friends.
Yeah.
You know, I was scrolling through Facebook, just looking at my news feed, and somebody posted. I can't remember who it was, but they posted a prompt like that said, "What's harder for you to say? A, I apologize. B, I need help. Or C, I love you." And I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting question." And I thought about
Yeah.
it, and I picked C. I was like, "It's hard for me to say I love you." Like I can,
Yeah.
I'll apologize if I'm wrong, and I'll say I need help if I really need help. Even that is hard for me to ask for, but I can still ask for help if I need it. But saying I love you, like
Yeah.
I can't do that. To me, it's so not even with my parents. Like that's how.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I can understand that.
but that's
I
also
mean,
because I come from an Indian family, and nobody says I love you in an Indian family.
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I got you. I mean, yeah. It's a different family dynamic, and or then I got you. I mean, but I mean, I guess, but I mean,
But that's not just like family. I think it's like even to your loved one, you know, like your significant other. I'd have a hard time saying the words "I love you."
yeah.
I don't know if you resonate with that or
Well,
not.
I mean, what I was just trying to say was, I feel like I feel like that whole notion actually I feel like that whole notion starts from the family, though, because I mean, think about how children develop.
Yeah,
Children develop based off of the environment that they grow up in. You know, they're products of that. That being said, it's like, you know, I think I do think there's a certain family dynamic that I'm not saying is good or bad, but just certain family dynamics in general that can ultimately kind of, I think, affect how people later in their life, you know, it affects how difficult it is for them to say things. For some, it could be "I love you." For others, it could be, uh, you know, "I need help," or whatever.
or I
You know?
apologize or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think, I don't know. I think, well, I've always kind of, I've never really had issues being able to say, like, "I love you," or even asking for help, because I'm not very prideful. Well, certain extents maybe, but I think maybe the thing that I struggle with certain times is, Well, actually, no, I wouldn't even say apologize.
Well, it doesn't have to
but
be those three things. I mean,
I
those are
know,
the
but
only three.
I'm just
Yeah.
talking about from the
From
context of
those
that
three.
meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, from those three, I actually don't really think I have that much of an issue with most. I mean, but I do, but it's only during like certain like very specific. But it's only during like very specific situations, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But I'll say it like this though. I also think. I mean, I think the "I love you" thing is I don't know. I think it kind of. I mean, I think as I got older, it actually got more difficult to say things than it did when I was younger. But I think that's just because of my own experience, my own personal experiences, just with dealing with other people and everything like that. And then also kind of just seeing how adults really are with each other in terms of,
Yeah.
I think, family, life, or and I'm talking about like extended family and stuff like that. Like, maybe like people you don't necessarily see all the time, but they're your family. Therefore, you're supposed to kind of like, love them because of that. But it's like, I don't know. And I think as you start to get older, you start to, at least for me, I started to think more and more about kind of what that word means and kind of how to use it, or when to use it rather. But I don't know. I mean, there is that certain amount of vulnerability that comes from saying that, that
Yeah.
from saying I love you, or I mean any of those like those three options just in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a vulnerability thing to be able to let your guard down and say something like any of those three things, or
Yeah.
things of that nature. It doesn't have to be just "I love you," "I'm sorry," or "I need help." It could be any of that. But showing vulnerability as a whole, I think, is majorly difficult. In
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But-
mean, I mean, I want to say it's for me, it's one of those things I try and just not to think about, just because that makes like that makes like that makes functioning in an emotional sense, or just functioning in the sense of being human, less awkward if you're just not like focusing too much on why you're saying something that's not too I'm not sure what I was trying to say. Well, I lost what I was going to say. Sorry.
I think
If
what
I
you're
can-
trying to get at is like it makes it a little bit less awkward when you don't focus too much on what you
Yeah.
want to say. Like if you feel love for someone or something and you say it without overthinking it, it's a lot less awkward, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah, no, you got me. That's exactly what I was trying to
Yeah,
say.
and I think you're right. Well, and that kind of comes with allowing yourself to be vulnerable and showcasing how you
Yeah.
feel, and that kind of goes back to, how in today's society, I think it's starting to become more okay for not just men, but people in general to sort of open up about how they feel,
Yeah.
and say it without overthinking it in terms of, if I say this, am I, painting myself as, a weak person,
Yeah.
right? But and at the same time, it's also positivity. I think is also kind of in a weird twisted way. Like there's two sides to the thing. I think this whole thing, like opening up and showing vulnerability, and then there's the other side where there's people that are almost always too open and positive, and and how that is also in a weird way negative. Like it's negative
yeah.
to be not. It's negative to be totally closed off, and I think it's also negative to be very open and very, very positive about everything.
Well, yeah, because I mean, well, I just think that can come to a conversation about balance,
Yeah.
or having a certain amount of balance. Because I don't think anything is ever truly balanced unless you're talking to the gurus of the universe, in which case they'd be like, "Oh yes, everything is balanced, my
As
friend."
Thanos would say.
Yeah,
All things. I don't know. I can't remember that quote.
I think it was like balanced as all things should be. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But we're not. Yeah. But no. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, you could be living in this like this euphoric, is that the right word?
Utopia?
Euphoric sort of.
Utopia?
No, I'm thinking of like I'm thinking of like a sort of like world that someone chooses to put themselves in, where they're just like where they're always seeing good and they're not seeing anything. I mean, like
An ideal, like, well, that's what I would. That's the word I would use. An ideal utopic
well, yeah,
filter.
well,
Or
it's
euphoric.
like
Euphoric would be
it's
okay too.
I mean, it's basically setting up illusions for yourself, kind of like,
Oh yeah.
to where you're, yeah, I mean, but because I think that it can be shocking for some people to think that positivity could be negative in an aspect or something like that, because
too much
yeah,
positivity is totally.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost
but
neglecting to see. It's not neglecting. It's choosing not to see the truth. You're almost denying the truth for the sake of it.
yeah,
It's too hard
denial.
to swallow.
Giggity. Sorry about no, yeah, I'm following you. Like, well, because a lot of times I like to think of myself as a positive person, but I think a lot of people do. But I mean, I being self-aware of who I am, I tend to look on the bright side of things. I tend to look at things in a very positive light. No matter, well, not no matter how shitty they are. I mean, I will still be able to be like, okay, yes, this, like, I can admit when a situation is really, really bad, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is shitty. This is a shitty situation. I feel you. I understand what you're saying. But then my mind immediately, I think, just to cope with that sort of thing, is immediately I'm thinking of a solution as to how that can be, fixed, or in a way that can be fixed. And I don't necessarily think that's toxic or negative.
No, I think that's you're a
per se.
bloomer. You're
A blo-
a bloomer, not a boomer. You're a bloomer.
Well, explain that to me. Explain that
Bloomer.
concept to
I
me.
mean, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, you probably know what I'm talking about. But there's
Oh yeah.
there's the memes. There's the boomer. There's the doomer. There's the bloomer, and then there's the zoomer. Bloomer. I think what you're describing sounds like a bloomer, where you recognize that there's a bad situation, but you're seeing the possibilities. After once you get through the shit, you're seeing. I should say you're seeing past the shit to see the possibilities of what could become afterwards. Yeah. You're seeing the resolution, how to resolve in any kind of scenario. It doesn't have to be the world, but you see that there's pain in the world, and then you see beyond the pain, and that sounds like a bloomer attitude, as opposed to a doomer attitude, which is you embrace the world pain and you see no light I shouldn't say light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't see the you succumb to the misery of it. And
You're
like,
more nihilistic, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. You're indulging in all the temporary fixes.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that may be. It could be substance abuse, could be escape from reality, like video games or whatever, or movies. I think there's a doomer in all of us, but
Definitely.
especially in our generation.
Oh yeah, of course.
But at the same time, there's how you choose to deal with that doomerism, if you will.
Doomerism.
If that determines if you're starting to follow the path of a bloomer as opposed to a doomer and staying with the doomer path. I don't know. Not to get too philosophical here.
Right, but I mean, I think, hey, we said we offer informative and
Mildly humorous.
and something else. Oh, entertaining. That's the other thing,
Entertaining,
too.
yes.
Not to toot
Toot
our own horn.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Not to toot around. You
Toot,
tooting
toot.
over there?
Oh yeah. Had some Taco Bell for breakfast, and no, I didn't. I wish.
Taco Bell
would be
sounds kind of good right now.
That would be delicious right now. But I think what's also interesting is to look at this idea of how this overwhelming amount of positivity translates then to things such as social media. because there are people that look at how Instagram, how like if you look at that at like really successful Instagram pages, it is just nonstop overwhelming positivity where it's like people are acting like, oh yeah, this is, my life is great,
Nothing bad
everything
happens
is,
in my life. Yeah.
nothing bad happens, it's perfect, I love, it's like you've got people who are beautiful and just, they're in this, they're always in the sun, they never, I'll put it like this, they never take pictures on a cloudy day.
Yeah, they never. Yeah, oh, that's a good analogy. I think. Yeah.
And quite literal too, like, you see these certain, everything's great and beautiful in my life, and then it's the age old, the yeah, I guess, I don't know, the age old phrase of I'm blocking out the haters and everything like that. It's like,
Yeah, or hashtag good vibes only.
oh yeah, really, are those good vibes? Are those, is pretending, or is being in denial a good vibe? Is that a,
That's a really good question you just asked. I think that is in part being in denial of all that's wrong. Just choosing not to see it and blocking it out
yeah,
kind of makes you. I think that makes you. And this is a controversial statement, but I think that makes you weak,
ooh,
as opposed
interesting.
to opening up about things that
Yeah.
hurt. That is a strong thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, and because that's, I mean, you are in some way, shape, or form, taking an easier way. You're taking the easy way out to essentially, I think you could say liberation for yourself or whatever, because
Yeah.
I mean, instead you're just, I mean, I've this is something I've told people a lot, and I used to tell people this a lot when they would have issues, and I would say, by making yourself feel uncomfortable, you will actually end up growing, because
Yeah.
you can't grow if you're comfortable. I mean, think about growing pains, like when you were young and like your leg would hurt or whatever, and you're like, ma, why is this happening? And then it's like, well, it's growing pains, and the notion is there, or the idea is there. You need to feel that pain so you can grow. Like,
Yeah, it
otherwise,
comes with it. You can't really. There's no growth without a little bit of. There's a really cool quote. I can't remember who said it, but there's no rose without thorns.
oh yeah,
So absolutely, and yeah, like there's the people that live in ignorant bliss all the time. Blissful.
yeah.
Is it ignorant? Am I saying that right? Or blissfully
Yeah,
ignorant?
yeah. Well, yeah, because the saying is ignorance is bliss.
Right. And they just reject that anything is wrong at all. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know how you could go through life doing that.
Well, I mean,
I feel like you'd have to really to give some credit to them, or to give some benefit of the doubt to them.
oh yeah,
I think you'd have to go through some really really shitty things to be at
Yeah.
that point. That could totally be a way to get there. Is like everything is fine because you've really been put through the ringer and
yeah.
none of
It's a coping mechanism at the end of the day. But I mean, I'll say it like this: a lot of I mean, just as there are good coping mechanisms, there are really bad coping mechanisms, and some bad coping mechanisms aren't identified, or they're not publicly seen as how bad as they could be. I mean, does that make sense, right?
Yeah. I think so. Well, elaborate on that a little bit more. I'm
Well, I
curious
mean,
what your thoughts are on that.
okay. Well, what I'm thinking of is I'm thinking like, yeah, yeah, like some. Okay, okay. Let's say, smoking cigarettes is a coping mechanism. All right. Because it chills you out, or everything, or anything like that.
Takes the edge off. I would say, yeah.
Exactly. Or alcoholism, for whatever. Alcohol is used as a coping mechanism. I mean, a lot of people say. I mean, I think a lot of people will come out and say that alcoholism is a negative coping mechanism, and to a certain extent, smoking as well, because there are health issues that arise from that. But I think in that term though, but I think that because you have those sorts of things that are publicly looked at as negative coping mechanisms, you then also have things such as this overwhelming pride of, or this overwhelming sense of positivity that isn't seen isn't seen as a negative coping mechanism because there aren't any health issues that arise from just being overly positive and everything like that. But it's like, well, yeah, but let's take a closer look now. What are you doing to yourself mentally? What kind of wall are you building up for yourself that is stopping you from developing? Because I mean, think about stunting your own personal growth because you're so absorbed into this idea that is a coping mechanism that isn't healthy. You know, I mean, I think what I guess I'm trying to say is more often than not, a lot of coping mechanisms aren't treated as badly as they aren't talked about or considered as bad as they really are.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like somebody who's overtly positive and always talking about positivity and good vibes only and all that stuff. It almost gives away the fact that everything isn't okay in their life.
Yeah.
And they need to maybe take a minute to sit down with themselves and reevaluate their mindset, because it's okay to it's kind of like that movie Inside Out. Have you seen that movie yet?
I haven't, but I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, like the whole idea behind that movie was all these the characters. It's a Pixar movie, and it's inside of a main character's head. It's a little girl, and inside her head, there's different emotions characterized. So there's happy, there's sad, there's angry, there's jealous, and I can't remember the other one. But happy, all the other emotions together try and keep sadness away from taking over this girl's mind. And at the end of the movie, and this might be spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, so pause or skip through this part now.
It's been a couple years.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Spoiler alert. But at the end of the movie, they realize that everybody needs a little bit of sadness.
Yeah.
To really process the grief. You have to process grief. You can't.
That's powerful. I think that's super powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. You have to process grief in order to see why the good things are good. Like you can't just flood your mind with positive only.
Bob Ross. What did Bob Ross say? But one of my favorite Bob Ross quotes is he's like, oh well, you gotta. What did he say? He was like, he's like, you gotta have. It was basically you gotta have bad times so you can appreciate the good times.
Exactly.
Because I think he was talking about. I don't know if it was his. I don't remember if his. This might be wrong. This really might be wrong, but I think he was talking about his wife dying or something like that, and he was like, and then something happened. He was painting. Something traumatic happened to him, and he was painting.
Oh, okay.
And it was on live TV, and he said, "Well, you gotta have the you gotta have the bad times so you can appreciate the good," and that is a very realistic way of looking at things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, good way of looking at things, but
it's healthy to see it that way, because otherwise you're just then you're just living in denial.
Yeah,
and I've been there. I've done that, so I can.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a learning experience. You're not. Nobody is in the wrong for learning, because right. I mean, you're not going to know if you don't learn. So,
exactly, and that's why I think that at the end of the day, I think there's a nihilistic doomer-esque in all of us, even if you're even if you're the so-called boomer. And again, not to say that this is just to call out baby boomers. It's not just a baby boomer thing. This mindset can translate to other age groups that are younger. But like even those that are always positive, even those that are always, I don't know, something makes me believe that for someone to get to that point in their life, they have to be put through. No, I shouldn't say they have to be. They may not be put through anything, but
Most likely, they've probably have been put through hell. Or
yeah,
whatever.
to get to a point where they're like, none of this is really all that big of a deal. Like they get to a very nihilistic, because they're like, yeah, anything that's happening at this point in this world, like no trauma is greater than the one that I've been through, so everything is fine.
Yeah.
And that in its own right is kind of nihilistic, and nothing that I do, nothing that I say matters, so everything is fine. Nothing that goes wrong will matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the Doomer would say the same thing, but in a different twist to it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I also want to kind of think about just going back, just really quickly to the to that whole Instagram idea where you have people who are posting who post, or their entire account is just based off of quote unquote, or hashtag I should say, good vibes and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's always really, really interesting when later on they have a post about they have a post about okay, I'm going to be off of Instagram for a little bit of time now because of quote unquote self-care or whatever.
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
Or it's the big announcement that I'm taking a break from Instagram for however long because of this and this and that. And it's like whenever I see posts like that, or they stick out to me, because it's like clearly some sort of breakthrough has been made.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always interesting to see whether or not they're going to follow up with that breakthrough in a positive manner, or if they're just going to let old patterns continue. And
the content
manifest.
they create. No, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
If their growth is going to be seen in the content they create, or is it going to be the same type of content, but the entire growth phase is offline. Like nobody sees it.
Yeah.
Everybody continues to. Yeah, I get totally what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'd be more interested in seeing somebody who, showcases their growth. Not like a weird, like, look at me, I'm growing and I'm learning.
Well, yeah, because then you get that. Well, then it turns into a toxic thing all over again, because
Exactly.
it's like you've got this level of, it's not really narcissism, but it's like it's this level of
Validation seeking, I think.
Well,
is
yeah,
what it is.
it's validation seeking, but it's also I almost feel like it's like lying to yourself, like, look at me, look at how good I'm doing. Aren't I doing good? I'm
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and then it just kind of gets kind of like creepy, where it's just like you're just. I mean, you should be proud of your journey. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm not saying. Don't be. But I think there also comes to a certain amount of how mature you are about it, because maturity is another thing that enters into it, because a more mature individual is somebody that's going to just kind of take things as they are, and just like, okay, this is, yes, I screwed up. Yes, I've been doing a lot of bad things for myself, and I need to stop doing that.
Right.
I mean, I think I always think of like the videos on YouTube where it's like, we need to talk, or I did something bad, and it's just a guy who's
It's like clickbait almost.
Yeah, it is. And then you've got the person who's sitting there who looks like sad, or they're like, oh,
Yeah,
they've
like
got
real
their-
grim. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's so funny.
Oh, it is. It is, and it's to comment on our last podcast, quote unquote, cringy kind of, because it's like, you have to you then start to question, is this person for real, or are they just doing this for?
But then
for
I'm like
you?
mad at myself for clicking on it too. I'm like, all
Oh,
right,
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, all right, what did you do now? Like,
But you click on it. You click on it like, what did you up on now?
and
you
they
mother-
totally made
Yeah.
it work. Yeah, no, I always feel guilty for having to, like, they totally made it work. I clicked on it just because, it's like, now I got to know what this person did.
Right. Yeah. And you do feel this overwhelming sense of just.
I fell for it, even though I
They
knew I
got
was
me.
falling for it.
But somehow it's also energy.
I
but
simped
somehow
hard.
It's
That's what
dark.
I did.
What was it?
I simped hard.
Oh yeah, you simp.
Even though I
But-
knew I was simping, I simped
but-
hard.
But somehow it is darkly entertaining to in a dark way, I should say, but it is entertaining in a dark way to kind of, because we as humans just have that natural tendency about us. Oh, how did this person up now? Because we just
Yeah, we all love titillating stories.
We're also, please understand that we're not necessarily trying to kind of we're not trying to make anybody feel bad. Please understand that. Because I mean, you know, everybody has their own journey. Everybody and like we said, you know, everybody essentially needs to learn before they can know. You know?
Yeah.
And we're not necessarily trying to say that certain people are wrong for, you know, the ways that they cope, but just also understand that there are better ways to do that. There are actual proven ways in which a person can cope with, or there are proven techniques and proven strategies that a person can take to.
We won't talk about the proven ways in case anybody decides to listen to us and try it, and then they're like,
Yeah.
So,
But
to avoid
I
any,
mean, if you go to a person who's actually trained for it and everything like that, they
Right.
will say these are great techniques to go on in with that will currently help you out.
Right.
Because I think there's a certain part of that a lot of, like, I see a lot of people who have accounts on Instagram go very public with you know, how they're coping and with certain things. And I think when you immediately bring that public aspect to it, I think that really starts to take away from, you know, that starts to take away from you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like there's
it's,
certain things that should be kept personal. They don't have to
yeah.
be publicized. Yeah, I get that.
Because at that point, at what point does it become, oh, I'm doing this for publicity, or
I mean,
I'm
it's
doing this for
annoying
whatever.
enough when you share your food pictures online. Like, look what I'm eating.
You know,
I'm kidding.
I mean, I feel guilty. I feel guilty sometimes when I post my.
Yeah, stop
my,
posting your $40
bourbon.
steak and your bourbon and your.
my bourbon.
Yeah,
well,
stop
I don't
doing
really
that.
do the food, but I do the bourbon. But I think
I'm
that's
kidding.
more or less, that's not
I
me.
love ya.
That's not me trying to like flex on people. Or that's more or less just
Yeah, will
me
you
like,
quit
look,
flexing?
I
You
know,
little
right?
piece of shit. Your $40 steak and your bourbon and your,
I'm sorry.
and your mashed potatoes or whatever.
I just think I
Look how
matter
well
that
fed
much.
I am. Ugh.
I just
had
think
enough
I
of you.
matter that much, and I think people need to see everything. They need to see that I'm having a good time, so they know that I'm worth it.
Well, you're not.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not. Okay, whatever.
Quit being a little bitch.
Yeah,
Bitch.
whatever.
No,
What of it? You still f***ing me, so what's the issue?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I am. You got me.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll touche your touche. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think you're right. Some things do need to be kept personal, and it's okay to share. Like, hey, I'm going through some tough times.
Yeah, I think that's
okay.
great. Because you're letting people know, you're like, all right, I'm doing something with my life right now.
You know what I find the most intriguing though is when, and I don't know if this happens anymore or not,
What's up?
but when somebody is going through a tough time, say you're an artist, musical artist, a fine artist, any type of content creator, whatever, you know. Well, I shouldn't say content creator because that sounds like you're a YouTube celebrity or whatever. But I'm talking like if you create, you're a maker
Yeah.
of things or art or music or movies or whatever. I find it more interesting to see the tough times you're going through reflected in your work itself. Like
yeah.
if you're you know, so like I like to take, well, I'm not gonna talk about me, but I'm just saying like somebody likes to take photos. They're a photographer.
Yeah.
And their Instagram page or social media is full of the work they do, and they post it online. You know, I find it more intriguing when they start posting things that are dark. Like if they're in a gloomy part of their life right now, maybe they won't take pictures of a sunny landscape. Yeah, just as an example.
Well, I feel like the biggest thing is they won't be taking pictures of themselves because I think the biggest, I mean, let's be real. It's like selfies and that sort of culture. It's a very narcissistic culture because you're trying to make yourself the set that you're making yourself essentially the center of attention for whatever sort of content that you're posting. It's all about you at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's validation seeking, and it's all it's a lot of look at me, look how
Yeah.
pretty I am.
and
You
and
know.
and I think what you're speaking on as far as like artists that are actually able to put themselves or where they're at in their life into their work, I think that's totally. If anything, I think that's so empowering
Yeah.
because you're able. I mean, you're literally able to take something negative or something
It's
negative
less
from
on
your
the
life.
nose. That's what it is. In fact, the first time I was exposed to seeing the evolution of an artist was when I first went to Philadelphia for a Vincent Van Gogh show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, my dad and I we road trip out to Philly.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was that's when I used to live in Pittsburgh, and it was a birthday gift, I guess. It was my birthday that we went on. That's the day we traveled on. It was during my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and yeah, it was the first time I saw. We started at Van Gogh's. It was a tour, and we started it was a guided tour. We started at the very beginning of his career, and as it progressed, we saw how his color palette changed, and it got progressively like the content that he was painting, and the colors he was using were shifting from nice warm tones to nice dark. And I keep using the word nice because they were nice.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
though they were dark, they were nice, dark, grungy colors.
It's an honest assessment of what you saw. That's what you felt. You saw that and you literally thought, that's fucking nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
There was some sort of warmth even to the dark stuff,
Yeah.
And that to me felt like a genuine but subtle way of saying, "Hey, I'm going through tough times." It's not as, and the weird thing is, people still painted self-portraits back then.
Yeah.
As an equivalent to if you want to talk about selfies and how it's
But-
narcissistic.
Here's the thing, though, that and that's when the conversation opens up because I've thought about that in the back of my mind when I was talking about selfies, and it is an interesting sort of thing because yes, a self portrait is a certain sense narcissistic, and there are some people that would even argue that a selfie could be considered a self portrait.
Yeah.
But also think about it like this. I think it also comes apart. I think there's a certain amount of labor and a certain amount of connection though that comes from drawing yourself versus, just using your phone and taking a picture and being like, hey, look at me. Here's me being, whatever. But because but maybe I'm romanticizing it too much that it's like, because if you're the way you would do it back then is you would essentially need a mirror. If you even
Yeah.
had that, you would need to
Yeah.
look at your reflection and you'd have to look at yourself. And, there's always that.
Oh, that's a very good point. You'd have to look at
Yeah.
yourself and actually sit through an hours worth of process to get to the end of that portrait.
yeah.
I wonder how much
Like-
that changed. Like you at your, because when I'm painting, I'm thinking if I'm painting a self portrait and I'm sitting in front of a mirror for hours, I'm staring at my face,
Yeah.
and I wonder if that is a more of a reflective process than just putting a camera on your face, taking 50 selfies, and then getting rid of all the bad ones so that you can post one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
it
a really
totally
interesting.
is.
That's a really interesting point you just brought up. Go ahead, talk about it.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, because I think, well, I think about this one meme that I've seen, where it's like when you're at a party and get shit faced, and then you you go to the bathroom and just stop and look at yourself in the mirror, and you're just like, shit. Well, it's like, I mean, I think about it in terms about that, and I mean, and there's all sorts of, I mean, there are studies that have been made about how humans react with mirrors and just how, I mean, you can essentially I believe there's a study that you can redefine your relationship with a person if you stare them in the eyes for 4 minutes straight.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it will apparently make you closer to that individual, and it will redefine kind of what you feel, the things that you feel for that person, because it has something to do with just the way that our brain works and just kind of our own ideas of intimacy, kind of. maybe it's some chemical that gets released in your brain. I don't really know, but I just know that that was a thing. I can only imagine that it's a it can be like that same sort of idea can kind of happen when you're just looking at yourself,
In the
because
mirror, yeah.
and I think the thing, I mean, there are some people who they don't like looking at themselves in the mirror. Like there are some
Oh
people that
yeah.
will avoid looking at themselves in the mirror. And but I think the big thing is it's like, imagine.
Wow, that's actually okay. Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
say something about that later. Go ahead, but finish
Yeah,
your
well,
thought.
I'll finish up, but all I was going to say was, I mean, I think with all the with all the things that go on in people's life from a day to day basis, I think a lot of us don't stop and really look at ourselves in the mirror, and I think that when you have to actually draw that or paint that or whatever, and you're actually looking at yourself, you're seeing everything.
Hmm.
It's about as humble I think as you can get, because you're or maybe adversely that, because you ultimately get to choose what you put in the photo, you know.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at yourself, you're seeing all the flaws, all the perfections and imperfections that may or may not be in your face or body or whatever, and you know, you're choosing what to put in ultimately. And I think that comes down to how that comes down to the artist and how, I guess, moral they are as an artist. Well, I don't know if moral is the right word, but you know,
How much they want to edit their portrait.
yeah, or how honest, I guess you could
Yeah,
say they
honest.
are.
I think
Yeah,
that's the word. Well,
yeah,
yeah, and so that's what I was going to say about um, the difference between taking a selfie and posting it anywhere and painting yourself. You know how they would do it in back in the day as a self portrait. You know, I find that I've done that. By the way, I've
oh
actually
yeah,
looked at myself in the mirror and painted myself because I was feeling a certain way and I wanted to.
mm.
I needed a release.
Yeah,
And as I was getting, as I was working through the painting, I stopped feeling what I was feeling, whatever feeling that
mm.
drove me to do the portrait. Let's just say it was melancholy. You know, it was that melancholic feeling that I needed to get in front of a mirror and look at myself and put that on a piece of canvas. I
Yeah,
stopped feeling that, and because I had a lot of a lot of thoughts go through one's head when you just get sit yourself down with
yeah,
yourself, look at yourself in the mirror, and you start seeing your problems through a third perspective. It
mm.
almost you take yourself out of the um, you take yourself out of your own situation, and when you try and put whatever it is you're feeling, the essence of what you're feeling, on a
Yeah,
canvas, you start realizing that your problems aren't as great as you made them out to be.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and it's anxiety. Anxiety plays into that. Like
Right.
it's fear, illusion. Fear is an illusion ultimately.
Right.
Like if you look at, well, okay, I won't get into that, but yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. A lot of times we do choose to make things worse than they really are.
And it's until we take ourselves, sit ourselves down and look at ourselves in the mirror, as hard as it may be for some people, for whatever reason,
Yeah,
you start. It's almost a forgiving process. You start
yeah,
forgiving yourself, or you start looking at yourself and going, you know what, it's okay. It's everything's fine. And that's not to get back. And that's not really a boomer thing, going back to the boomer doomer zoomer thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not. It's more like, all right, I'm evaluating my own situation from a different perspective, and I'm working through my issues while sitting in front of a mirror,
Connecting with yourself,
connecting with
essentially.
yourself. Right? Yeah.
And that makes it very personal, because back to what we were saying about things being public, because immediately I was just thinking about, I feel like the effects of making things public, because there are some people that try to argue that taking a selfie and everything is reconnecting with yourself and
Oh,
everything
okay.
like that. I honestly think you can only do that alone. You can't, because the minute that you start to incorporate this public, or the fact, the minute that you integrate it into a public setting or whatever,
Hmm.
I think I
Well,
that
even if it's a
that
selfie in a room, I think in your own bedroom, you're like, okay. Let's take a more literal example. photography when that was on the rise.
Yeah.
People took self portraits then too.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And again, that kind of, you have to ask yourself why you're taking this photo, and
Yeah.
not to get too preachy, but ask yourself why you're taking this photo. Is it because you're sad? Is it because you need some sort
Yeah.
of, well, I don't know, a validation? Like, and if it is, whatever it is that maybe you're feeling pretty. I don't know, but you take that photo, but you kind of have to find a way to like use lights, using lights, setup,
It's-
color palette. You think about what mood you're trying to convey. In
Well,
your
it becomes
photo.
a piece of work because there's a certain amount of effort that's put into it.
Right. And it becomes less on the nose all of a sudden because you're creating an atmosphere around what you're feeling as opposed to just taking a photo in a very particular pose that shows off whatever it is you want to show off. Maybe it's your dress, maybe it's your shoes.
I think there's certainly an art to self-portrait. You know, I definitely do. Yeah, just because it's. But okay, yeah, no. But back to what I was kind of trying to say. I do think though that there's a certain amount of like it has to be a personal thing because because I'll say it like this, if you're looking at yourself in a mirror and then you tell yourself what you see, unless you've got some major complex and you're lying to yourself straight out, inside you're still going to know why things are a certain way, versus if you went to a person that you know and you asked them, hey, tell me what you see or tell me what you know about me or everything like that. That person can't honestly give you the most accurate reading on what is quote unquote wrong with you or what is, they're not a psychologist. It's like, so that's why
Right.
I think I'm just trying to say, I think it's pointless to publicize your quote unquote process of trying to reconnect with yourself because that's
Right.
not something that you can do publicly. That has to be
Yes.
fully you. It's literally a you on you situation. There's
Yep.
it can't be other. There's no way around it. And I think
And it's not a one-time thing either.
Oh yeah, of course not. But because you're obvious. Most people are constantly developing themselves. I just, I think it's just, I think the overall issue is that people just, it comes down to what we were saying earlier about positivity, overwhelming positivity, where it's like you're in denial. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself to make yourself feel better about whatever. But it's like, that's not going to do it. You have to be, and going back to what I said, you have to have a little bit of discomfort in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're not trying to, we're not trying to be insensitive or rude or just even mean for that matter. We're trying to speak.
It's just a
upon
conversation.
an issue.
It's just an observation.
It's a conversation, and it's based off of observation.
Exactly.
And
We don't claim to be right or anything like that. We're
Yeah,
just saying,
yeah.
here's what we think, but we'd love to hear what you think in the comment
Yeah.
section below.
on this YouTube
on
video.
YouTube at least, yeah.
Right. And I think it's Maser, I think it's about that time to get on out of here to close up this beautiful session of a podcast.
Closing time. Yeah.
I love that song actually. That's a
I know
great
you do.
fucking song.
That's why I sang it for you a little
Do
bit
you?
of it.
Have I told you about that?
Oh yeah, I know you love the song. Anyway, we're gonna get sidetracked again. It's time we close. It's closing time.
Closing time. But before we go, what we want to say is we're going to be putting out a new segment that we're just going to call extras, and it's going to be it's just going to be maybe like 5 to 10 minute clips of segments that didn't make it into the final cut of the podcast. Look out for extras that will be exclusively on our YouTube channel if you're interested. You just want to hear, and you'd want to hear us talk a little bit more about whatever the hell it is that we talk about.
Well, the deleted scenes, if you will.
Yes, not bloopers, but deleted scenes. And without further ado, I've been Drew.
And I've been Mauser.
Thank you for watching. We'll be with you for the next one.
Tune in.